Welcome to the Perimenopause podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about what actually happens to your body, your brain, and your metabolism in perimenopause without all the bullshit, without the shame, and without being told your labs are normal. I'm Sav, the founder of Savage Fitness, and today we're going to talk about something that most of us women are feeling, but no one is necessarily talking about. Stay tuned.
We had to make a no strapless talk rule for our client Zoom calls and meetings because of me. Hello, reporting from Playa del Carmen, Mexico, where it is either hot or humid 100% of the time, and I fucking love it. My tan has never looked better. I feel like now is the best time to explain my perimenopause journey from start, which was about 3.5 years ago, until now, because a lot of shit has happened, you guys. Let's just start by saying I didn't see this shit coming. There wasn't just one moment where everything broke. Okay. It was more like I just slowly stopped recognizing myself. And this has never happened to me before. And to be completely honest, it was really fucking scary. If you see me keep reaching over here, it's because I have notes up on the screen because there's a lot of ground to cover. And I make sure that you guys get all of this because I am positive that you can relate. So at 38, I was in the best shape of my life. Like, your girl was looking fucking good. And I was so proud of myself because not only did I achieve what I felt was the best shape of my life, but I was easily maintaining. For a year, I was eating intuitively. I felt like I finally unlocked the next level of looking and feeling my best and also being able to live life. You know, I was having drinks. I was eating whatever I wanted. Like, I figured this shit out and it was beautiful. And then everything started to expand in a good way. My business was growing. I built a team. We bought our first home. And instead of slowing down, I leaned in more because I'm a Virgo. I am an oldest child. I'm very type A. So I welcome more work. I welcome more pressure. I welcome working late nights and more stress. But this time really felt different. I was telling myself this is just what it takes to achieve the next level. But deep inside, it felt harder than it usually does. It began with waking up just completely exhausted and depleted, not a normal tired. I was waking up at 8 a.m. and needing a nap by 9:30. No fucking joke. I was just drained all the time. I would go to bed as early as 5 p.m. on the days that I could. Once my calls ended, I was like, I'm going to bed. It was kind of fucking crazy, but also I normalized it because my mom at my age would do the same thing. She would go to bed really, really early and we would make fun of her for it, but I loved it because it was my time that I got to spend with my mom. We would lay there with our ice cream and watch Seinfeld. Now I'm realizing there's a fucking mosquito in here. This mosquito is just going to tear me up. But anyway, now I'm realizing my mom was going through perimenopause also. A lot of the things that I watched of her growing up now make sense, but that's a whole nother episode. Okay. So it started with the level of just exhaustion that I've never experienced this kind of fatigue before. And then the cravings started. I needed wine, literally needed wine to relax. And I would kind of what's the word? I would validate my need because if I was drinking wine, I would work. I would feel way more productive. So it got to the point where I was door dashing wine at 2 p.m. And then it went from a couple of glasses to a bottle to 2 bottles to sometimes 3 bottles a day. I don't know if I've ever told Jake this, but I was hiding my my wine bottles like at the bottom of the trash can because I knew something was wrong. But I would justify it by saying my business is growing, I'm productive. I need this because otherwise I couldn't fucking sleep because I was so exhausted all day. But for some reason, I was wired as fuck at night. So I was using coffee and at this time Adderall just to get through my basic responsibilities during the day. And then I was using wine to self medicate to sleep. Because if I wasn't drunk, I couldn't sleep through the night. One glass of wine, two glasses of wine, that actually kept me up because it spikes your insulin. But if you drink enough to get drunk, it'll knock you the fuck out. This is not a good practice, you guys. Don't do this. Okay. And I remember thinking, like, this is not me. Why am I acting this way? I was embarrassed, but I also ignored it. For the last 20 years, I have been able to essentially override my body. If I, didn't weigh myself for a while, step on the scale, I got a little weight to lose. I could do it. I could always figure it out. This time my body stopped listening. And I gained 25 pounds in just 6 months. And mind you, I went from the best shape of my life to what I would label as the worst shape of my life in 6 months. And that's when everything changed. That mosquito did fucking get me. Fuck. Anyway, that's when everything changed because this wasn't like this before. Before, I knew what I had to do to fix it. This time, I had no fucking clue because I didn't know what was going on in the first place. How could I know how to fix something that I don't even know what the fuck is going on? So I got desperate and doubled down. I hired a coach with the intent to step on stage again. I haven't actually been on stage since 2017. So I was like, I want to achieve like my best physique by the time I'm 40 and step on stage because I think in some divisions that's considered masters. So I would be at the younger end of a higher age range. So it gives me an advantage. And so I have this whole plan. And he significantly dropped my calories, put me on a pretty strict nutritional protocol. Like I couldn't have condiments and stuff. It wasn't just tracking macros. He wanted me to eat specific kinds of meals at specific time of day. He had me training harder, high intensity, just generally pushing more and harder than I have in a really long time. Even to achieve my best physique ever, I didn't have to do that. I was dirty macro tracking. I was drinking alcohol and it worked. But this time it didn't work. Instead of losing weight, I gained weight. My symptoms got way fucking worse. And I could feel my business and my marriage starting to significantly suffer. When I was 38, the year that I started building and growing a team, we scaled and my business made the most that we ever have. The following year, we dropped quite significantly. We dropped, I think, 20% revenue because of me. Side note, businesses don't fail. Business owners either get burnt out or overwhelmed or unhealthy or shit, all of the above in my case. The part I didn't tell anyone was how much I started to disappear from my own life. Because honestly, I didn't realize it. You don't realize these shifts when they're happening. You realize them when you start to regulate. So now that I'm doing all this inner work, I'm realizing, oh my God, that's what was going on. I stopped looking at myself, like seriously avoided looking at myself in the mirror. It was honestly really fucking sad. I was so ashamed of myself. I hated myself. I wouldn't shower for days at a time. There were shit. I think I remember one week I showered one time. Yeah, nasty. Lucky for me, I lived in Washington and it was winter and I wasn't really working out. And if I wasn't sweating. So There's no justification. It was fucking gross. But if you have ever been depressed, you know that showers go out the window when you're depressed. You almost want to sit in your filth to like, punish yourself. It's like a level of self-loathing that you achieve when you get this depressed. I was severely depressed. I didn't want to see my body. I didn't want to touch my body. I lived in sweats and baggy clothes, even in the summer times. Yeah, it was uncomfortable as fuck. But I just tried to make it look fashionable or whatever, pretend and say that I was fucking cold. You know, most of the time I just wouldn't go. If it required me to wear an outfit, I wouldn't go. And that's what I mean by disappearing from my life. My poor husband had to spend, like a year and a half basically just hanging out without me, living life without me, and I would stay home and just like drink and sleep and eat and self-sabotage, you know? I avoided intimacy as much as humanly possible. We only had sex if I had been drinking because I didn't feel connected, not only to my body, but to my husband. It was terrible. It was terrible. I feel so guilty and remorseful and shameful doing this sooner because of the impact that it had on him. And I'm so grateful that our marriage was able to sustain this phase, because it was years, you know. My emotions were fucking everywhere. And they were impacting literally everything. My team could feel it. I lost very good team members because I was erratic. I would be fucking changing things all the time, changing systems all the time, freaking out over little things, emailing and messaging at fucking 3 a.m. I'm seriously so embarrassed about how I acted. And I didn't know at the time that this was a me thing. You tend to place blame on other things like, oh, well, this is just how it is to run a business. Oh, well, they just weren't a good hire or that client just wasn't a good fit. No, it was fucking me. And my poor husband, I would literally be laughing 1 minute, crying the next minute, frustrated at him the moment after that. Like it was fucking insane. It was a literal emotional roller coaster. And he felt it. And he felt alone and disconnected. And I've never been like that in our entire relationship. We've been together for 10 years. I was there physically, but I wasn't really there. And he could literally feel it when we were being intimate too, you know? I remember thinking, what the fuck is wrong with me? Because my whole life, well, again, not my whole life. I was pretty chunky when I was a kid, but my whole adult life, we'll say, I've identified as a fit, disciplined, focused, like got her shit together kind of woman. And suddenly I wasn't. And it felt like it was completely outside of my control. I lost my entire identity during this time, and I felt totally and utterly hopeless because I was afraid that maybe this time I couldn't fucking fix it. Like maybe this is just who I am now. I'm a fucking fat, emotional loser, and I'm going to lose my business, and I'm going to lose my marriage, and I am going to lose myself. Like I literally would think like I'm going to end up homeless on the streets and just be like a drug addict one day, the way that this is going. I swear to God, either that or I thought I was going to fucking die. And those thoughts like literally broke me. The fear of not being yourself or not having the ability to get back to who you are it's the worst fear. It is absolutely terrifying. It wasn't just the weight. It was my life. It was my identity. I was disconnected, unstable, exhausted, and overwhelmed. And the more I kept trying to push through it, because that's what always worked, the harder my body fought against me. And it wasn't until Jake looked at me and said, babe, something is seriously off. Like he really made me start to look at myself in a different way, because he was like, you are so up and down with your emotions. And he's like, I'm trying to support you, but I'm getting to a point where I don't know how to support you anymore, because one minute everything's fine and great and you're happy and you feel positive, and the next minute you're saying that you might want to divorce me, or that you might want to shut down the business, or that you want to kill yourself. He's like, I don't know what to do. So I stopped fighting my body, mainly out of love for my husband. I did end up losing the weight. Uh, Actually, I stopped lifting weights for a couple of months and just focused on walking and reducing alcohol and slowly and incrementally increasing my caloric intake. I shifted the kind of supplements that I was taking, and I lost the weight. I finally was like starting to feel like, okay, we're getting back to me again. But this is the shit no one talks about. I got my body back, but I didn't feel better. I didn't feel like 100% me again. I remember when we took a trip to Mexico, it has been almost a year now. We were on our first team building retreat. Okay. There's another episode specifically about this instance, because this was like a huge turning point for me. So go and check out that episode. I don't want to make this episode like 2 hours long. So at this time, I remember thinking, I finally figured it out. I looked great. I was maintaining easily. I was sleeping better. I was handling stressful situations, but something still wasn't like fully there. I was handling stressful situations not well. My stress tolerance was still depleted. Things that used to feel easy, and normal parts of my like day-to-day routine felt totally fucking overwhelming. The slightest inconvenience would throw me. I cried between meetings. I screamed literally about fucking emails. I felt like I was constantly failing. I remember one point specifically when I had one of my coaches and my admin, and they were sitting in the living room at the B&B. I got off of a meeting with one of our other coaches that could make it to the retreat, so we were on Zoom, and as soon as I shut my laptop, I ran to the bathroom and started just fucking bawling. And this was so embarrassing, because that is not how leaders are supposed to act. And you know what? Nothing bad happened on that call to make me fucking cry. I don't know why I was crying. I think that it was just my literal like physiology breaking down, you know? And I came out of the bathroom and they were like, "You okay?" Like, I'll never forget the look on their faces. They felt so like bad for me. And I don't like that feeling, especially as a leader. You don't want to lead out of people feeling pity for you. You're the leader, you're the example. And I remember my coach asking, "Is that how I make you feel when we get off of our meetings?" That is the worst fucking thing. I don't have kids, but imagine if that's how you reacted to one of your kids saying something to you, and your other kid sees you and they say, "Mom, is that how I make you feel?" That is the most horrible fucking feeling. You are supposed to be, as a parent and a leader, you are supposed to be the example of how to manage your emotions. And I wasn't fucking doing that. And I just kept thinking, is life just stressful now, or is it me? And then, believe it or not, this shit got fucking worse. I hit a point where my thoughts were actually like not scaring me anymore, but they were scaring Jake. Like that is the real shit. When you are having suicidal ideations and it doesn't scare you that you're having those thoughts anymore. It didn't. I wanted to. So trigger warning, okay? I'll probably have to put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode too. But I started to say out loud that I just wanted to die. And I fucking meant it. I really did. I remember Jake was on his knees in a hotel room. And I need to paint this picture for you, okay? Because this was such a terrifying moment for both of us. So we had our flights got canceled, our accounts got hacked that morning, okay? So we were supposed to leave Mexico. We had been here for 2 weeks. It was a very stressful 2 weeks. And wake up the morning that we're supposed to leave and fly out. We got all packed, literally leaving the fucking Airbnb, and found out our accounts got hacked and our flights were canceled. I fucking flipped. Okay. So anyway, we get a cheap hotel room because we're just going to be there for one night. This hotel room is empty. It feels like the kind of hotel room you could rent by the hour, if you know what I mean. And I was just beside myself. I felt like I had failed us. For some reason, I was absorbing all of the responsibility for this situation. I felt like I had failed us. I felt like there was no hope to continue forward with anything in life. And so I told Jake, like, pretty fucking matter of factly, I'm going to kill myself tonight. And he didn't believe me. And so I just kept repeating it over and over again. And I was like, you need to believe me because I need you to be prepared. I'm going to kill myself tonight. Okay. And I started going into logistics. I drafted up an email to send to our financial advisor to make sure that he had access to all of our funds. Like this was not an ideation. This was a reality for me. And my husband on his knees in this empty hotel room, bawling, pleading and begging me to stop saying this. I remember looking into his eyes, and his eyes just, I hope I never have to see that look in his eyes ever again. It was the most horrible feeling, yet I felt nothing. I felt nothing. I just kept saying it. I just kept saying, you have to believe me. I'm going to kill myself. And that's what scared me the most, actually. It wasn't the thoughts, it was the fact that I felt fucking nothing. And that I started preparing, to make sure that he was taken care of in my absence. Thank God he suggested, let's go get fucking drunk. Honestly, tequila saved my life that night. I threw up all over the hotel room floor, but I lived to see another day. God, that's really hard story to talk about. Jake usually edits my podcast episodes. I think I'm going to have to edit this one. Anyway, I realized that I could make myself look like me and still feel completely and utterly broken. And that's why it really pains me to hear women say that they just need to go on a GLP-1. They just need a different workout plan, or they just need, a better, that's not just what you need. That is only fixing the surface.
If this episode felt uncomfortably accurate, I want you to know you're not broken and you're not imagining this. You can follow me on Instagram at sav_tastic, where I talk about everything perimenopause, hormones, metabolism, and what actually works for women in this phase of life. And if you're ready to understand your hormones instead of just guessing or, again, being told that your labs are normal when you don't feel normal, check the link in the show notes. I'll talk to you next time.